So, I got like less than 5 hours of sleep, I think, but I'm gonna go to work soon, and also I'm going to eat and put the finishing touches on getting ready. But in the meantime, right before I do those things, I want to talk to you about something I was thinking about when I woke up, which is adaptability. You know, I will eat the goy slop. I will live in the pod. I will do, at least in my case, relatively speaking, what I'm told. I think a lot of people struggle with this, and they struggle with it on multiple levels. If you watch this channel from its beginning, at least when I started making the weirdo vlog content, which was in like 2018, from 2018 to now, there's a lot of changes, peaks and valleys, and the consistent theme throughout like the first couple years of that uh, is mostly me complaining about how I don't fit into society, don't relate to the predominant attitudes, and don't want anything to do with them. And in light of that, um, I, I had like whole systems of belief that kind of shielded me from what I thought were like hegemonic ideologies or ways of being. And steadily time went on, and a lot of that stuff just started to get broken down. A lot of that stuff just started to fade away, and I found my own way of accepting these grand or I I was about to say these grand narratives in society, but really it's like a lack of grand narratives for me. Like I had all these narratives that were meant to critique society and protect me from it. Um, but now in the absence of that, I just have really simple thoughts on a day-to-day basis about this stuff. And you know what I when I said that there's like these different layers to people who feel alienated. I feel like what I've lost as a result of that is two, three, or maybe fourfold, right? Like, it isn't just that I've started having a more healthy outlook and I've started processing things in a more healthy way, which I have. That's definitely the case. I think I've also lost or shedded some of my humanity at the same time, or some of the things that uniquely made me human. And the reason I say this is because I recently have been thinking about a friend of mine who is vegan. She really loves animals. She posts about them constantly. And I remember one particular conversation I had with her at, I want to say it was the end of 2019. I think it was a little before. Um, about this sort of visceral experience the two of us had in regards to animals and animal welfare. Um, at that time, I actually did desire becoming vegan, um, though I couldn't because of my economic circumstances. But I wanted to help animals in some way because I had gone my whole life hating humans, feeling like they were the source of all my problems, and that my only friends in the world were animals. And I felt these extremely, like, visceral desires to be an animal and to be with animals and to talk about them and think about them and observe as many aspects of their lives as possible, know as much about them as I could. And that had continued on into, that age that I was at that time. But nowadays, I don't think I feel like that. I mean, I'll joke around about, oh wow, this animal is really like me. I relate to his energy or whatever. And I do get excited. I do soy out at cute animals, but it's in like a much more normie way. Sometimes it's not in a normie way. But relatively speaking, like in comparison to how I used to be, it's in a much more normie way. And that just it just makes me feel like this is connected somehow. Like my relative lack of alienation from society has almost made me less individual. Like there were these things that caused me great distress, as in beliefs that I held and feelings that I had that weren't wholly negative. Like, those feelings that I had towards animals were extremely positive in the sense that they gave me this visceral connection to nature. They gave me a lot of euphoric feelings of connectivity. But it was also paired with this hatred of humanity, this disgruntled sense of alienation. And in order to get rid of one of those things, unfortunately, I couldn't separate the two. Um, and so, I'm in this situation now where there was this thing that I feel like distinguished me from other people to some extent, that I liked feeling, that I also don't feel anymore because it was paired with this broader sense of alienation, which I have now shedded in light of my more healthy beliefs, my more reasonable beliefs. Or at least, at the very least, if you want to get as like postmodernist, relativist, I know those things aren't necessarily the same, uh, as you want to about it, you could say, the beliefs that make me uh, more in line with society, that make me function better in society. It, like, unfortunately, you can't just separate out the good parts. At least I can't. Um, and so I went from being this highly emotional animal lover who connected with them in this deep way to just, being someone who has empathy for animals, but I don't get consumed by it. Um, it doesn't impact my day to day functioning. I don't spend a lot of time thinking about it. I can kind of get along with humans well enough. I don't have this sense of alienation anymore. But I think part of the reason why I can feel nostalgic for when I was that alienated is because of this. It actually has nothing to do with the alienation itself. The most prominent thing that sticks out the most in my memory is the alienation because humans generally are negatively biased. But that's not actually the thing that sticks out in my mind. That's not actually the thing that's making me nostalgic. The thing that's making me nostalgic are are those things. You know, the things that made me individual, the things that brought me some measure of joy or happiness, like my connection to nature and these animals. When I was alienated, I was a lot more of an emotional person, and that cut many different ways. It went in many different directions. It's undeniable that many of those were positive. And now I'm much more of like a static kind of guy. Like, I feel like just about anything could happen to me, and I'd get up tomorrow the next day and I'd try to do something again. I very much have this functioning brain. um, I have this functioning mindset. And if I, you know, carve deep into the recesses of my memory, if I really just pick at it for a while, I know that that has some drawbacks too. But you either die with that stuff or adapt to what the world requires of you.